This day in sports history. It's March 27th, and on this day we had a rather questionable decision by the Yankees. We also had the birth of the madness, and golfer Hal Sutton went from regular PGA Tour winner to Zen master with a phrase he uttered on this day on his way to winning a golf tournament. I'll get started right after this. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. I'm a big fan of shave soap. I've been using different brands for years, and I recently gave Sterling's shave soaps a try, and I've been very happy with the results. Sterling's shave soaps give you a great lather and a frictionless feel that allows the razor to glide right over the skin for a super close shave. No skin irritation and a clean, refreshing feel with no soapy residue after. I can tell you without a doubt, it's simply the best shave I've ever had. And my wife has noticed too. And here's the thing. With the ability to purchase 1-ounce sample pucks, you can try out different scents to find the right one for you. Give Sterling Soap a try today. Visit sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. Well, with the Major League Baseball season already in full swing, let's go back to what happened on this day in 1990 when Pascual Perez finally showed up for spring training with his new team, the New York Yankees. Pascual always seemed to have a lot of promise, but never quite lived up to it. After winning a team-high 15 games in 1983 and becoming an all-star with the Atlanta Braves, and then following that up with 14 wins the following season, he was set to be that next promising ace for a resurgent Braves team. But he plummeted in 85 with a 1-13 record, and he was shipped off to Montreal. After winning 12 games in 1988, he was set to be the pitcher to bring Montreal postseason glory. But a disappointing year followed that one, and it looked like all that promise might be gone, to be remembered more as a what if. And then the Yankees came calling, giving the man with a career record of 64-62 a 3-year deal worth $5.7 million and elevating him to the ace of the staff, pinning their hopes on the Jerry Curled Dominican to reawaken the Yankees dynasty. After a 32-day lockout ended with a new labor agreement between owners and players, the Yankees were ready to welcome in their next great hurler. But they had to wait, and wait a little bit longer. Perez was in legal trouble in the Dominican Republic, and he was not allowed to leave until he settled a matter of child support, and then he had issues with getting his visa paperwork in order. And finally, on this day, 8 days after he was expected to arrive in camp, he finally got there. Anxious to give Yankee fans a look at their new, shiny, prized possession, Yankee management hustled Pascual off the plane into the ballpark, gave him his pinstripes, and then put him on the practice mound to start throwing some pitches. Maybe not the smartest thing to do. He'd missed his final 2 starts in Montreal in '89 due to shoulder inflammation, and the Yankees had not given him a full medical exam prior to signing him. His hurried appearance on this night proved to be a bit too hurried. He tweaked something in his shoulder during that workout that nagged him through the rest of spring training. On opening day, though, he did look promising again, throwing 5 complete innings with 5 strikeouts and 2 walks in a 73-pitch outing. In his first 2 starts, he only allowed 1 earned run in 11 innings. But only 1 more start followed, and by late April, he was on the disabled list. Rehab stints in the minors followed, but he couldn't shake the pain. And by July, he regretted signing with the Yankees at all, saying he was in pinstripe prison. And once again, the promising Pascual Perez was back in what-if territory. As in, what if the Yankees had not rushed an out-of-shape 8-day delinquent pitcher with a flaky history off a plane for a cosplay performance for the media on this day in 1990? But then again, in the context of the season that the 1990 Yankees would have, which would be a dumpster fire of a season, wrapped around the Steinbrenner, Winfield, Howard, Spira saga, live Cougars in the locker room, and outfielder Mel Hall dating a 15-year-old, maybe rushing Pascual Perez out to the mound was not the worst decision of the year. It just set the tone. As the Sweet 16 gets whittled down to 8 and eventually 4 this weekend, let's remember the origin story of the event and go back to what happened on this day in 1939 when the first edition of the NCAA Tournament wrapped up. The tournament was organized by the National Association of Basketball Coaches in response to the National Invitational Tournament that had started the year before. The championship game featured the Oregon Webfoots and the Ohio State Buckeyes in the national championship game played in Evanston, Illinois. A side note, Oregon would use Webfoots and Ducks interchangeably over the years and would not officially be known as simply the Ducks until 1978. Oregon led 21-16 at the half and then pulled away in the second behind the scoring of John Dick, who scored 15. The Webfoots won 46-33 to become the first NCAA champions. So this started out as an 8-team field that also featured Brown, Wake Forest, Villanova, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah State, starting out in 2 different regions. And it remained an 8-team field until 1950, when it began to expand. But if you remember from yesterday, there really was not a consensus national champ until the NCAA started playing the NIT champion. And if you recall, in 1945, there was a playoff between the NCAA and NIT champs to determine a consensus champion. And that actually started in 1943 when the NCAA tournament began encroaching on NIT territory and playing its national title games in New York's Madison Square Garden, which had been the home of the NIT since 1938. This first edition of the NCAA tournament lost about $2,500, though. But thankfully, folks realized that they had something special on their hands and decided to come back for year 2 in 1940. That one made money, and the National Association of Basketball Coaches turned over the running of the tournament to the NCAA, and from there it has grown into the 68-team field we know today and enjoy as March Madness. Let's move ahead to 1978 and another championship game in the NCAA tournament. In this edition, it was the Kentucky Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils. Kentucky had been the top-ranked team in the country for all but 2 weeks that season. Duke had not been ranked for most of the year, but a late-season push, winning 8 of their last 9 games, including 3 in the ACC tournament, had put the Devils in the top 10 behind guys like Mike Jaminski, Jim Spanarkel, Gene Banks, and Kenny Denard. Kentucky had some future NBA players on their roster as well, such as Jack Goose Givens, Rick Roby, and Kyle Macy. Even though Givens had led the Cats in scoring that season with 18 points a game, Duke coach Bill Foster was more worried about Roby and started out in a 2-3 zone to nullify any advantage near the basket and daring other Wildcat players to shoot. But the zone the Devils played, with aggressive guards out front pressuring and the back line sagging in the post, left gaping holes all around in the middle, and Givens exploited them, knocking down shot after shot in the first half.
Really showing a lot of different strategies. Nice pass, and it's Givens over Jaminski. Oh, what a soft touch. Automatic from there. They'll shoot soon, though. Givens had it knocked away, he controls it, and he scores it. Indeed, then sensational. Time for Kentucky to add to its lead. It's Givens again. Oh, my! What a terrific play by Jack Givens.
Goose scored 23 in the first 20 minutes, including the final 17 of the half, to give Kentucky the 45-38 lead. Givens anticipated that Duke would change up their 2-3 zone, maybe go man-to-man or something else, but instead, Foster kept the Devils in the same 2-3 zone in the second half.
I was expecting them to change their defenses around, go to another alignment, but they stayed into that. I think they were thinking that if they brought the big man out, then that would leave Rick and Mike open and they would get the baskets on the inside. I don't know if they thought I could continue hitting, and I didn't know if I could, but I was fortunate that they kept going in, and I was just lucky that they were giving me the shots.
Givens did keep shooting and scoring. He hit 18 of 27 from the floor and finished the night with 41 points in a 94-88 win for Kentucky. It was the 5th national title for the Wildcats, and Goose Givens' 41 ranks 3rd for most points scored in a championship game. On this day just 2 years ago, Caitlin Clark had one of the most dominant performances in women's NCAA tournament history. This was an Elite Eight matchup between Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes and the Louisville Cardinals. Clark seemed to be anywhere and everywhere on the court, hitting shots.
Clark, step back three, is good! Here's Clark, guarded by Robinson. Clark firing again. Oh my! Caitlin Clark, a showstopper!
Threading passes to teammates.
Big getting ready to check in for Iowa. Clark, great feed. Warnock, she got it.
And grabbing rebounds. But mostly, she was hitting long-range threes.
Here's Clark, open in the corner. She got it.
Clark finished with a triple-double of 41 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds. It was the first ever 40-point triple-double in NCAA women's tournament history, as Iowa went on to the 97-83 win to advance to their first Final Four in 30 years. On this day in 2000, Hal Sutton beat Tiger Woods in a year when that was nearly impossible to do. It was the final round of the Players' Championship, a tournament a lot of folks refer to as the 5th major because of the quality of the field. The final round had been split in two and finished on a Monday due to heavy rain and thunderstorms on Sunday. Sutton had put himself in position to win the tournament with 3 straight 69s from Thursday through Saturday to take a one-shot lead over Tiger into the final round. The two were paired up in the final group on Monday. Sutton hit several pressure shots in the final round. On the 8th hole, he flew his approach into a back bunker and had a tough lie and an awkward stance. He extricated the ball in what he later called the best shot of his life. He then rolled in the 15-foot par putt, which sent a message to the young Woods that Hal Sutton was here to play. Bring it on, young buck. They both parred the Island Green 17th and went to 18 with Sutton still clinging to that one-shot lead. Tiger led off with a 2-iron stinger to the center of the fairway, and Sutton had a decision to make. Play it safe with a 3-wood or pull the driver out and put it past Tiger. Sutton pulled the driver and laced it 20 yards past Tiger's ball, meaning that Tiger would have to hit first again. Tiger's approach was long, and it wound up in the rough behind the green. So now, Sutton knew that a shot to the middle of the green meant the victory. He had a 6-iron to the green, and after he made contact and watched it fly towards the green, he uttered one of the most memorable phrases in golf.
Be the right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
It was the right club, and he was confident he had the yardage correct. But lots of things can happen between contact with the club face and coming to rest on the green. A gust of wind could push it left. It could hit a hard spot on the green and bounce off the putting surface. And that's why Be the Right Club Today became such a memorable and now oft-repeated line by golfers of all handicaps. Sutton 2-putted for par to win by a shot, and he says wherever he goes now, he inevitably hears that line at least once a week, if not more. Be the right club today is a nice mantra we could all add to our life to get us through a tough spot. And on this day in 2006, the NFL owners voted unanimously to brand the official Wilson football used in games the Duke, after former New York Giants owner Wellington Mara. Mara had passed away the previous October, and this was a tribute to a man who impacted the game over his 60-plus years of being involved. He joined the Giants front office in 1940, took over as owner in 1959, and continued on until his death in 2006. He was nicknamed the Duke by New York players in the 40s because he had been named after the Duke of Wellington. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Walking into a Wild West saloon, say back in the 1800s, at some establishments, you could order a drink called tarantula juice.
Say what?
Which included strychnine and wood grain alcohol distilled from turpentine.
What did you say?
Several minutes after drinking this particular beverage, the drinker's skin would begin to tingle as though tarantulas were walking down their arms.
What?
That sensation was often followed by muscle spasms and then lockjaw. I would imagine that orderers of said drink were not allowed to put that one on their tab, and it was more of a pay up before you drink up kind of a transaction. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.